little rain last night. Best kind of rain is the rain that shows up in the evening. You never see it. You just wake up the next day. You know it's happened. Yard looks a little greener. I'm happy about that. But today, it's a Friday. We made it through the week anticipating, hopefully, I think more so than likely, you're going to see the return of Jordan Love. We'll hear from Jordan Love coming up in today's program, some of the Q&A that he had. You had an epic night at the ballpark, and it wasn't in New York. It wasn't in Milwaukee. It was in Miami, where Shohei Ohtani what an incredible night. 6 for 6, 3 home runs, couple of stolen bases. He opens up the 50-50 club, does some kind of Jedi mind thing out of the Matrix last night and sliding around a tag over at third base. A performance that something like we've never seen. It just amazing performance by Shohei Ohtani. We don't talk about him a lot just for the fact that, one, he's a Dodger and we hate the Dodgers, and two, it's a West Coast thing. But what an incredible performance and what he's done, man, oh man, oh man. And don't forget, he's a pitcher who's taken a year off from shoulder surgery not to be able to throw the ball. So he just DHs and does his thing, and he's just an amazing baseball player. So anyway, so that went on. You had the win last night, which I thought 3 games in 11 days and a decent defense from the Patriots might slow down whatever the Jets had to throw at them, and that wasn't the case. The energy last night, the first time back at MetLife for Aaron Rodgers, proved to be just the elixir that the Jets needed. However, the win last night has been completely overshadowed by the hugging, push, shove, chest bump thing that went on between Rodgers and Robert Saleh. And I got to be honest, we'll talk about it for a minute, but I don't care. There's two ways to look at it, and we'll look at both, and then we'll move on. The Brewers lose last night, a little bit of a hangover. They looked like they had won the division the day before. It just didn't look good last night. So it was a little bit of a disappointing night at the ballpark, coming off of such an incredibly exciting night the night before. So now you get back, you gather. Today's a Friday. You go back to the ballpark. You go back to work. So today, I would expect, hopefully, bigger and better things out of the Brewers. So that's kind of no Badgers this weekend. So sit back, relax with college football and whatever you want to do until the Packers play coming up on Sunday, which we have our live watch party and Green and Gold postgame show coming up after the fact. So don't forget to join us over at Stenny's in Lake Country coming up on Sunday. So we're going to be there for that. We're giving away a 55-inch big screen TV, all fired up, excited for that. So looking forward to it. You want to get a hold of the program? 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. That's the phone number to get a hold of us. You can text us, 608-321-1670, 608-321-1670. You can find us over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels. If you want to watch the program there, a link probably already has popped up. You can watch us there. You can also find Grant at Wisco Grant. At Wisco Grant over on X, over on Twitter. Great way to watch the program. YouTube.com. That's youtube.com/Bill Michaels Show. YouTube.com/Bill Michaels Show. Mike says, by the way, my wife is getting jealous that I'm spending more time with you than her. Well, you can turn us on and turn her on. How are we looking? You can multitask, for God's sakes. Anyway, getting back to it. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook as well. Instagram and Facebook, The Bill Michaels Show. You can find us on TikTok, on the Twitch app, on the Kick app. You can watch us on LinkedIn. You can email the program, thebillmichaels@gmail.com. The website, simply thebillmichaels.com. The app is WOZN, The Zone Madison. And then after the fact on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Google Podcasts as well. We have a major concern right now. And it has to do and deal with our good friend, Grant Bills, who's producing the program today. Grant, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You're concerned about me?
I found out that you ate a hamburger with a fork and knife.
Well, this is... Okay. So earlier this week, we were talking about, I think we got onto the subject because we were talking about the best burgers. And I'm like, right. I like a fast food burger, but if I go to a restaurant where we're sitting down and eating, I don't like to get burgers because then my hands get all sloppy.
Right.
I'm not going to be the person that, eats a burger with a fork and a knife. So Mike and Portage, who is in studio visiting, they brought me a quick trip burger and fork as a knife as a joke. So I leaned into the bit, but I would not normally do that.
No, I heard that and I was laughing. It was the caller that went, I think you're un-American. That made me laugh. I was walking around the studio like belly laughing. That was funny.
Maybe just a little bit. That's why I would order. That's why I wouldn't order a burger if I go to a nice restaurant. I don't want to be the guy that eats it with a fork and a knife. You know what? And here's the thing about gourmet restaurants. The more gourmet the restaurant, the more gourmet and sloppy the burger, usually. Yes,
it's got
exactly.
On it. So I'm okay with that. I will usually cut it in half and then eat it, but I to me, I'm just like, bring me extra napkins, man. I'm going to mess up,
Or while we're on the topic, sometimes I flip it upside down because when they bring it out, the bottom part of the bun absorbs all the sauce and the juice. But if you flip it over, the top part of the bun, it's just, that's a fix too. But I'd just rather avoid the whole thing, which is the point of the conversation in the first place.
Right. I heard that and I was kind of laughing. I'm like, okay. And then the guy called and said, oh, that's un-American. I busted out laughing. I was walking around the studio just cracking up. I thought that was funny as hell. Okay. I'm going to deal with this and then we can move on. We probably should deal with it when everybody's on the network, but I really don't want to beleaguer the point. Do you really care about Aaron Rodgers and the chest bump and Robert Saleh last night? I retweeted what you tweeted. I'll say this. It looked awkward. It looked like it looked like there's two ways to take it. One is the explanation about he's not a hugger and he's always the 2-score guy and I gave him the chest shove. That's almost, to me, it almost sounded like the reason that Brian Gutekunst couldn't get a hold of Aaron Rodgers is because he doesn't have a great cell signal and he knows to FaceTime me, bro. That's what that sounded like. Because we know anybody that does anything derogatory or negative towards Aaron Rodgers is on his S list. And he holds a grudge like nobody else with all his pomp and circumstance about, getting into your deeper love and your inner peace and your being. And it's just it's nothing but a giant steaming pant load is all it is. So we know that. So we know that Robert Saleh called him out when he went to Egypt and wasn't for the mandatory minicamp. And that had to become the topic of conversation for everybody else to answer, but Aaron Rodgers. Okay, whatever. So Rodgers did not seem happy about that. So when he went to hug him last night, my first thought was, Rodgers looked at him like he wanted to shoot him. Like if he had the capability of not killing him in front of everybody and getting away with it, he'd do it. So that was my first thought. And then I hear the explanation and I'm like, and I'm into it. I'm sitting there this morning and I'm watching the video you posted. I'm sitting there this morning and I'm watching it on Good Morning Football. And I'm listening to the explanation. And then what I said it was almost like I was like slapping my face, snap out of it. Who cares? And so that's where I'm at. That's it. That was where I'm at. There was really nothing more to it than that. I really don't care. Aaron Rodgers can hold a grudge. You don't hold a grudge. No big deal. The biggest story to me that coming out of last night was the fact that the Jets actually looked like a functional football team last night. That's it. No big deal. The Patriots, on the other hand, look like a bad football team who defensively got demoralized and offensively Drake May is just struggling. And there's nothing more to it than that. He is not good with timing. Him and his receivers are not on the same page. He doesn't throw the ball into the split second proper window. And he is experiencing what a lot of quarterbacks that come from college into the pros experience is that it's bigger, stronger, faster. And you have to think a split second faster. And if you can't, that is the difference between being a good quarterback, a great quarterback, and a below average quarterback or somebody that just sucks. If you don't have that split second synapse between your thought process and your shoulder to throw the football, then you're never going to be a good quarterback because the windows just close too fast. And that's what Drake May looked like last night. The windows just closed too fast for him. And I don't know if he's ever going to amount to anything. I was kind of hoping he was because it'd be great to see, but it wasn't a pretty performance last night as the Jets basically beat the hell 24-3 out of the Patriots, but that the score shouldn't even have been that close. It was a dominating performance for the Jets. And Belichick's not there anymore. Tom Brady's not there anymore. Teddy Bruschi's not there anymore. Randy Moss is not there anymore. All the greats that have played there. Vinatieri's not there anymore. But to the Jets fans to finally beat the Patriots in such a handily way, that meant the world last night. to that fan base. Regardless of Aaron Rodgers, it just meant the world last night to that fan base. So anyway, that's the only thing I took away from that last night. Other than that, the fluff and circumstance that is the chest bump, hug, push away thing that was, I really don't care. So, and Steven, you're right. Braylon Allen looked better than he did at Wisconsin. Man, he's become a grown-ass man. I really like watching him play last night. That was fun. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. That's the phone number if you want to chime in. Feel free to go ahead and do so. Coming up today on the program, we've got a lot of different stuff. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur. We're going to hear from Josh Myers, Mr. Hurl. And you know what? How long do you think it takes Josh Myers, if ever, to shake off that moment in time of the spewing upon the football? I wonder if he'll ever shake that off, because right now, like if you came walking into a restaurant, how many people move away from him? Like, oh God, I don't want to see that. Like he just, spontaneously hurls everywhere he goes. So, we got Adam Stenavich today as well. You're going to hear from him. You are going to hear today for a little bit from, like I mentioned, Jordan Love as well, who's back in the practice field in a padded practice yesterday. Yesterday, the video that came out, Grant, did you see the video of Jordan Love walking around on the football field yesterday?
During practice or after? Yeah, after the
practice.
fact?
During practice.
I saw the practice footage, yeah.
Did it look like he had a little bit of a limp? I watched it 5 times. I kept rolling it back and rolling it back and rolling it back and rolling it back. There is a segment, one where he's going through drills and he's rolling out, he's throwing the football, looks fine. But there's a segment where he's walking with the other quarterbacks up the field. There's Malik Willis, and then he's got another one, Sean Clifford. He's walking up the field, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I rolled it back. Oh, I kept doing it. And I can't tell if it's the angle or if he had like a little bit of a limp. And I can't tell. So I can't sit here and make some kind of specific determination, but practicing in pads and being out there on the field and practicing yesterday, the day before, most likely today again, that would indicate that he's going to play. But that little segment that I watched where it looked like he had just a little bit of a limp. And again, I'm probably looking at this through a 1 million times magnifier. I thought, well, wait a minute. Does he have a little? Because if he's got a limp, he's not playing. So that was the only thing that put a question into my mind as to whether or not he'd be playing. Did you see that at all?
I saw that he was favoring a little bit. I didn't think it was anything dramatic, but if you look really hard and you're looking for it, yeah, it's noticeable.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I thought if he's got a little bit of a limp and favoring it, he's not playing. He won't play. So we'll wait. I'm not going to jump to a conclusion, but if that's what you and I kind of saw, then I would say he's not going to play on Sunday. I would say automatically, no, they will not clear him if he's got a little bit of a limp. However, if it was just the angle and he's back at practice today and looking good, then, it's a Friday practice. If you're there on a Friday, then most of the time you're probably going to play, but we'll wait and see. But that was the only thing that I saw yesterday. That was it. Let's see here. We got a lot of just different stuff happening. A lot of people chiming in already this morning. Right. Kathy says, I would sit next to Josh Myers at a restaurant. I don't think I would if I'd go to my local Dairy Queen. Oh, God. Yeah, you don't want to get the chocolate shake and have that thing come flying at you. Yeah. Look, it was a 85, 87 degree day. It was probably really hot in the pads. Stomach upchucked a little bit, and it was all done. That was it. Poor Josh Myers, man. But you're going to hear from him today, too. So good stuff. All right, let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take our first break of the day. Hopefully, you're enjoying your Friday thus far. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And at Pella, there's many, many reasons to go with Pella. Put it this way. 1, safety, security. Lay your head on your pillow at night. Nobody's busting into the house. The latches work. The roll-ins work. The screens work. The door's locked. They got the toe kick that pops the little pin down there so you can't open the door. You don't need sticks in the door. Safety, there's first. Secondly, value. Adds value to your home. Any property. All of a sudden, you almost get your money back in what you spend to begin with if you're thinking about selling the home. However, 3, the economical factor. Fantastic. I told you about last year. The great room always was a fluctuation in the wintertime. Some days it was down to 62. Other days it was back at 70, whatever it happened to be. I just couldn't keep up with the cold when we got extreme. Put the new door in last year. Boom, 70 all the way through the season. No problems whatsoever, just from replacing one door, and that's saving money. And then there's all the different innovations, everything that they have, everything, all the different lines, all the budgets. Also, the fourth biggest option is you can go 0% for up to 60 months. No reason not to get hold of our friends at Pella. And they have showrooms all over the state of Wisconsin. They have one in Wausau, which is the new one. They got one in Green Bay. They've got one just west of Milwaukee out in Brookfield. And they've got one on the Beltline in Madison. You've got plenty of places to go to check out our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com, or call them 855-PELLA-WI. That's 855-PELLA-WI.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Jeff Levering here, asking the question, what does baseball have in common with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin? Manufacturing. Pella manufactures all their own products. Baseball teams have a similar homegrown strategy by developing its own players in the minors. Testing. Pella tests every product thousands upon thousands of times to ensure it stands the test of time. The ultimate test for baseball players to get called up to the big leagues, hoping to play well enough to stay. Pella is also the window and door equivalent of hitting for the cycle. Quality craftsmanship and innovative design are built into every Pella product for timeless beauty and performance. And now, Gina Della from Pella is here to call the big finale.
Thanks, Jeff. Pella windows and doors are best in class, not only from the endless styles, but for the features you can't see. And now for something you almost can't believe. Get as low as $18 per window and $81 per patio door per month. Hurry, the deal lasts only until September 30th, so visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. I'm going to be joining us and talking to him. Tyler Rowland, in a couple of hours, we're going to talk to him for the Locked On Titans podcast. Rosie actually in the last hour of the program today. Brewers baseball and phone lines are open. We can hold us 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. If you can give us a shout, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. Hit us up. Let's go to the phone calls. Talk to our buddy Derek, listening to us in Albany. Derek, how you doing, man?
Good, Bill. You have repeated that number so many times that I can remember it in my sleep now.
That's excellent.
I will admit, many of us out here were concerned when you said there was a concern for Grant. I'm like, oh no, something happened to Grant. It was as simple as
Yeah, it was a hamburger being cut, and I'm glad that we got the really quick. That way we can put it behind.
Last weekend I had a great weekend. I went to 2 jazz festivals during the day, and people who saw me there were like, wait a minute, you know how you're in the football, all your time shifting. And I had taped the Wisconsin-Alabama game, and I watched it later, and was sorry I did. And then I went to the Lake George Jazz Fest with the Lake with you know how it is when you're by the water. It was awesome day, awesome weekend of music, and then of course the game. So I went to where it was. Oh, Grant, I looked at the schedule, Packers schedule. How do they consider this, and all Packers things consider it? The tough games that we have coming up. Okay, the tough ones. I would say the Minnesota game could be tough. They're playing well. They're home. They were at Los Angeles. They're all banged up. They're a good team. All banged up. Then we got 2 home games back to back that are critical. Arizona and Houston both at home. Arizona's playing really well. Houston's playing well. So they're both home games. And then you have the next really tough home game, I think, would be the 49ers. That's on the 24th of November. The Dolphins, without Tua, and most important, he could be, who knows if Tua will be back this season. They're playing the Dolphins, who could be a tough team. That's that's in Green Bay in November 28th. And then the next really tough game at home, okay? And it's 2 days before Christmas. And it's at 7:15 at night. It's making cold. So the schedule looks really favorable for us. I mean, it's hard to predict. I mean, last weekend, how many crazy games do we have in that weekend? There's no success. I agree with you. We have some upsets in the story. When you look at the Ravens going into Baltimore and doing what they did, I haven't watched that game again yesterday on the NFL Network. And for whatever reason, Baltimore just doesn't know how to use Derrick Henry. And then obviously with the Saints dump trucking the Dallas Cowboys and putting up 40+ on them down there in Dallas, that was an amazing story. I mean, there was a lot of different things. And the Cardinals.
I mean, the Cardinals getting a win, and the way Pittsburgh is winning with just defense right now, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really strange. I think that the Ravens are going to beat the Cowboys this week. I have a feeling. I don't see them going 0-3. I don't.
Well, here's the funny thing. Do you think the Cowboys take, what would then be 3 straight losses at home and they don't respond? I get the sense that one of these 2 teams is going to come out just firing on all cylinders. I get the sense it's the home team just because they've been so good in Dallas. Can you imagine after a 16-0 start or a home record to go 0-2 and get dump trucked twice? I just can't see that happening in Dallas.
Yeah, another critical game, Bill, is Detroit and the Arizona Cardinals. Packer fans, you got to be rooting for Arizona this week, because Detroit loses again and we win. Hey, I think Minnesota's going to get beat by my second favorite team, the Chargers. I think the Chargers beat Minnesota. No, the Chargers played the Steelers this week. Who's Minnesota playing this week?
God, I got to think of it off the top of my head. They, let me see here. Hang on. Minnesota's playing the Texans. The Texans are actually playing in Minnesota, U.S. Bank Stadium. That'll be a good game.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting games this week, really.
Yep, absolutely. Completely agree with you. A lot of good games.
And hey, I'm a Guardians fan for a long time, an Indians fan, but listening to you guys and listening to Wisconsin radio, man, I am rooting for the Brewers big time. I mean, not that I'm not rooting for the Guardians, but I am so happy for people I know out there. And what a great story. The smallest market in baseball.
Yeah.
Go Brewers, man.
Yep.
I think it's awesome. And if it was the Brewers and the Guardians, that's okay too.
Yeah, you can wear 2 hats. You can do whatever you want. You know, you'd be okay with that.
Yeah, my oldest son refuses to wear anything but Indians gear.
Yeah, how did you become a Guardians fan in Albany, New York?
Okay, I'll give you a quick story. My father worked on the railroad. He worked on the Delaware Hudson Railroad a long time ago, and he used to bring home all these interesting trinkets from his travels. And when I was like 10 years old, he brought me this bobbing head doll of a Cleveland Indian. And I had it in my possession for a while. My father died when I was young, and so he had passed away. And I had this thing as a collectible. And all my friends were jumping on the bandwagon where I lived in Albany, New York, on the Met bandwagon. And they were just fair weather, you know. And I'm like, how the hell with you guys? I'm jumping off this wagon. I'm going to root for the Cleveland Indians. Everybody laughed for like 20 years. You know, this is like early 70s. And then finally the Indians came around. But I decided to become an Indians fan in the early 70s, partly because of my dad, and because I had this ornamental thing. And it was just sort of in a strange way to start, but I just kept rooting for them. And finally they got good in the 90s. They should have won a World Series, but didn't. So that's where that started. And I've been a Packer fan since 1965. So going
That's
back.
awesome. All right, man. That's good stuff. Derek, always touch. I appreciate it. All right. Talk to you. There you go. That's a good story. Yeah, working on the railroad. I'm a Guardian. Going back to the days of the Cleveland Indians. Years gone by. Look at that. Always, you know, it's kind of like when he talks about his story of the Packers. Hey, you know, growing up in Cincinnati, my mom and dad. Dad was a huge all Brown fan and Cincinnati Bengals fan. But my mom was who was a big football fan, was a big football fan. He loved the Bloody Packers. And so I grew up with those both. So whenever the Packers won, the Packers really weren't good in the 70s and through the 80s, as we all know. But anytime the Packers were on, specifically when Porter was the coach, my dad would always turn it on. They were always rooting for the Packers. Dad wasn't a Bears fan at all. Hated the Bears. Hated the Bears. So he grew up in southern Indiana, and that was like half and half country. There was a lot of Bears fans in that area, and he was a Bears fan. So I grew up by a Bears person. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Let's do this. Tyler Dunn, GoLongTV.com. He's going to join us. That is coming up next. And for those that are having some issues, I guess, over on the live stream, it appears like things are good. But let me know if they're not. Let me know if they're not. It sound good. Does not sound good. I don't know why. Maybe we can reboot. Maybe we'll try it. So, anyway, that being said, we got more of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Want to remind you, next week at this time, we are going to be live at Oktoberfest in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Going to be on the Flipside Bar and Grill early in the morning with Evo and the gang, and they have the tapping of the Golden Can. Then from there, we're heading over to the Oktoberfest grounds. We'll be doing the show live there. And then on Sunday, for the Greenville Postgame Show, when the Minnesota Vikings come calling the Lambeau Field, we are actually going to be in La Crosse back at Flipside doing the Greenville Postgame Show. So we'll have a little bit of a watch party there, and then the Postgame Show as well. So looking forward to it. And inviting all of you out there in the La Crosse area, kind of the post-fest vibe, if you will. Come on out, check out the Packers game, and hang out with us for a little while out there at Flipside Pub and Grill. All right, let's bring him in. Tyler Dunn of GoLongTD.com now joining us on the hotline. Tyler, how you been, pal?
Doing great. Man. Football's underway, so kind of getting to that rhythm, right? The kids are back in school, so I was in kindergarten now. It was a big day.
Oh, boy.
Moment, but we were able to persevere.
Did you shed the parental tears?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you?
Yes, it was. I felt like as we dropped her off in the drop-off line, that scene in Dummy Dumber Lloyd Christmas when Mary Swanson just leaves. And his arms are lunged out the window, and he's having a hard time emotionally dealing with it. I really felt like Lloyd Christmas.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Dad moment. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, let's talk a little NFL because we got a lot of weird storylines going on right now. Really, we're in our own backyard. Obviously, Jordan Love is back at practice and he's practicing in pads. You know as well as I do, normally the Packers are unbelievably cautious when it comes to bringing a player back from an injury. They usually stick them out an extra week just to make sure that they're good to go. What do you make of Jordan Love practicing in pads again yesterday?
Yeah, it's that age-old debate, discussion. I mean, the player is going to want to play. I'm sure Jordan Love is sitting there. He had to wait 3 years for his opportunity to start, and then things go really bad for half the year, then things go really good, and then you wait another 7 months to play this season, and then that happens at the end of your first game. I can't imagine how much he's chomping at the bit to get out there, and so you're having those hard conversations with management, with the coaching staff. I don't know. I mean, he is playing the most important position in sport. This AFC is going to be unbelievably competitive, even though it's the Titans and it's not your division, it's not your conference. Every game is so important. So if he's good to go, right, if they believe he can move and do everything that they want him to do, that he wants to do, I guess I'd be surprised if they overrule the quarterback himself, right? Like, he gave him a week of rest, and these brains are all a little different. Maybe it's not as severe as they initially thought. That's kind of why they had that wide range.
You looking at this Packers team and their start, we have not talked since they played down in Brazil, and then they come back home and they get a win with an unbelievable kind of game plan to kind of attack the Indianapolis Colts. Do you think that, let's just say that Jordan Love does not play in this contest, what do they need when you look at Malik Willis? Do they need to be able to kind of take some of the training wheels off of him, or do you try to do it all over again in 95-degree heat and continue to run Josh Jacobs when they're so thin at the running back position?
Yeah, I think you just nailed it, Bill. I think they would take the training wheels off a little bit more, but it was still a masterful game plan by Matt LaFleur. And we just started a new show here, How the NFL Works, and Quincy Avery, he coaches Malik Willis in the offseason, and he's worked with him, day in and day out. It's a really good sense for his game. He's actually worked with Jordan Love a little bit too. And he just made the perfect comparison, as far as the contrast in game plan from when Matt LaFleur had to start Jordan Love that one game, right, at Arrowhead. Rodgers was out with COVID. It was not a good game plan at all. Love, it wasn't pretty himself, but he didn't really do him any favors. This time around, he clearly played to Malik Willis's strength, to the team's strength, and that is running the ball, whatever it was, 66% of the time. But still kind of giving Willis an opportunity to make a play here, make a play there, and he was smart with the football, which is all you can really ask for. You've covered this team as long as anybody, Bill. I'll say this: watching that game, that's a game the Packers lose under the previous regime. You're right; you can't put it all on McCarthy, but from the way that they kind of constructed the roster to the way McCarthy coached it, to how reliant they were on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, being in that locker room, you could just feel the hope just leaving the room. It was like siphoned out of the locker room when Aaron went down in whatever it was, 2013, and then again in 2017. But that 13th season, we were trying out Pat Levine and things were terribly. It's like they tried to talk themselves into being something that they weren't. Like Mike Daniels was talking about punching teams in the mouth and wanting to do this, but they weren't that. They weren't that in the roster makeup, and they weren't that from the coach. I think that was where Brian Gutekunst kind of built the roster to win this kind of game. I mean, they can run the ball. They can win at the line of scrimmage, and they completely emasculated Chris Ballard's Indianapolis Colts. What an embarrassing game for the Colts.
With Tyler Dunn of GoLongTD.com. So let's run around the rest of the NFL. You've got a team like Baltimore starting 0-2. Dallas just lost a home game in the regular season for the first time in 16 straight, and they got dump trucked by the Saints. Both teams absolutely need to win. I think right now the Baltimore Ravens are more desperate to get a win. Then again, Cincinnati didn't win. They're winless as well. But give me your thoughts on that contest. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys trying not to get beat at home again for the second straight time, really the third straight time if you go back to last year. And then to the other side of the spectrum, the Baltimore Ravens desperate right now for a victory.
Yeah, it's always going to be different in Dallas with the pressure. But I think, personally, it's kind of funny, though, too. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles, the two best teams in the division, they're the teams with the head coaches on the hot seat. I mean, I guess it speaks to the markets and the fan bases and the championship pressure. But come on, Giants, Commanders, I mean, this is your chance. Both of those teams are apparently on thin ice with their head coaches. Do something about it. mean, it's like McCarthy. It's going to be about January. It's going to be about winning a game or two in January, right or wrong. I feel like the Jets really stacked against them there. I feel bad for Mike McCarthy, honestly. The fact that they get the Dak deal done, they get the CD Lamb deal done, but it could have never ever gotten to the 11th hour. Get it done early, move money around, and then you can go get another weapon. Then you can shore up the defense. You're not scavenging for the corpse of Ezekiel Elliott as your premier free agency signing. I mean, it was a pathetic offseason for the Cowboys, and then that's what we saw against the Saints. You get blasted because beyond the stars, the depth isn't there, and that's on ownership. Jerry Jones is also the GM. It's him and Steven. And what I was told by people who have worked in that building, Steven Jones is the one that's terrified of getting caught up in dead money. He doesn't want to pay coaches not to work, which is why Mike is on Lane Duck's kind of a 1-year deal, and he doesn't want to pay players not to play. But every other contender is doing it. Every other contender is moving money around to win now. The Cowboys chose not to, so they'll probably win 9 games, and they'll be one and done if they get it.
I want to go back to the division you cover quite a bit, and that is with that AFC, East. The Buffalo Bills, obviously, they don't look like they missed Stephon Diggs at this point. Certainly Miami, they've got their own team now going to the IR. Suddenly the Jets look like a team that could do something. I don't necessarily know what. And then even though the Patriots got off to that fast start by beating Cincinnati, surprising the hell out of everybody, they haven't been able to kind of replicate that since. But give me your thoughts on that AFC East.
Yeah, I think the Bills is impressive because they went to be one of the oldest teams in the NFL, one of the youngest teams, and getting a sense from Brandon B. We sat down at length this offseason and talked about it. I mean, they're kind of using a lot of vocabulary to ease the pain of fans. I think like this is a transition. They won't say rebuilding, right? That's like taboo. That's a swear word. But basically said this could be a reset, a rebuild around their MVP caliber quarterback because they had to. I mean, they were in the red. They had to move on from several veterans that have been banging on that Super Bowl door, unable to break through. So I get it. You moved on from these players for a million reasons. But I really thought that they struggled in September in breaking in Keon Coleman. And they're down 2 inside linebackers. So now you got Dorian Williams and Dalen Spector. You don't have Matt Milano. You don't have Terrell Bernard. Von Miller looked lost at times in training camp. He looked great 2 games. So I got to say, I'm really surprised that the Bills look as good as they do. And that Cardinals win is aged pretty well. And they just punked the Dolphins. I mean, they are inside that franchise's head. And even before the 2 injuries, that's what we were all talking about. But they were blowing that team out of their own building. And I think that they did it by kind of reinventing themselves around Josh Allen, where, they're still going to let Josh Allen run and throw and create and do everything he needs to do. No longer are they trying to rein him in, which is smart. But they can win with the ground. They can win on the run. They can win with physicality, and that just hasn't always been the case.
I want to ask you go back to the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens winless, Cincinnati winless. Should either of those 2 teams be panicking?
Yeah, I mean, I guess history tells you they should be. Right? I mean, 0-2 teams, I don't have it right in front of me. We've been hearing it all week. What is it like?
0-2 is like 11% of those teams since 1990 have actually made the postseason. I mean, it's very limited in what they've been capable of. Yeah, you're right.
That's why you're the best. You had it the tip of your tongue. Well, I didn't have to think so. I think that one of them get in, and I tend to think it's Cincinnati. I mean, Joe Burrow is he's going to be fine. Like, he looked really good in that Kansas City game. Jamar Chase was a non-factor, and the way that Burrow was able to spread the ball around was impressive. This is as healthy as he's been at the start of a season, his entire pro career. You got the drama with the contract at receiver, but I feel like the fact that he's fine, he looks better, they can kind of figure everything else out. They've got some issues. I mean, that Patriots game, I kind of look back at that like, what the hell happened? The Patriots were terrible against the Jets. They gave it away completely, but the season is long. I mean, it's week 17 games. You're going to see teams go up and down. I feel like they'll to the mean, and it's just because of the quarterback. They've got maybe the best guy beside of Patrick Mahomes, and they'll figure it out. The new coordinator he's worked with Joe Burrow as his quarterback's coach forever. He's from SUNY Cortland, not too far from where I live here. I feel like that relationship alone can open the Bengals. The Ravens, they lost, 3 of their 5 starting linemen, defense, Geno Stone, and Patrick Queen. I don't know. I feel like they lost too many bodies, and that's going to be harder to replace. Plus, you love Lamar, but you haven't seen Lamar really excel when it counts, unlike that.
What other stories right now? I mean, there's so many different ones out there. Obviously, you can look at what Harbaugh's been able to do, and certainly what the Minnesota Vikings have done. You got Pittsburgh that has won a couple of games. What stories right now intrigue you the most?
That's a good question. I think it's really interesting to see